Hello everybody, my name is Karryshh and welcome back to another recap video, and this time I brought you our latest and really scary Japanese horror movie. Best regards to all. Now this is actually kinda disturbing. We see a story where people are trying to be happy, but their ways are kinda out of line. Easy to assume there are multiple theories about what was going on in this movie since the movie itself doesn't make it clear. But from the looks of it, it was a good creepy watch. So if you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe to it because this is where you find horror from around the world. And with that said, let's dive into the video. So the movie begins in a village where we see a family that includes a little girl named Kayuri. Together with her parents, she was visiting her grandparents, and the scene was happy like a normal, usual family. Nothing was strange until after midnight, Kayuri wanted to use the bathroom. She went, but heard some noise from upstairs, and when she investigated, she found a room where a man was crying from inside. The door was ajar, and Kayuri saw the man inside, but to her surprise, the man's eyes and mouth were sewed shut. Kayuri screamed and she woke up, realizing it was just a dream and actually she was a young woman who lives in Tokyo. Kayuri was a nursing student, and in the morning her mother called her and told her to visit her grandparents for a few days, and Kayuri agreed easily. She then packed her stuff and was off to her grandparents' house, and on her way, she met an old woman and she helped her with her stuff and crossing the road. But after that, the woman replied that she is grateful to see young people like Kayuri who can sacrifice themselves for the old ones. This was kinda strange, so Kayuri just ignored that woman because then the woman starts talking about happiness. After this, Kayuri takes a train and reaches the village where she used to live as a child, and that was why most of the people there already knew her. However, this time Kayuri was having a different kind of vibe from that place, something fishy. Afterwards, Kayuri reached the grandparents' house and her grandma and grandpa welcomed her with happy faces. It was once again a usual scene of a normal family. Nothing was out of ordinary. The three sat down for tea, and after talking about their usual life, grandmother asked Kayuri if she was happy. The question was kinda strange, but Kayuri told her yes, and that made her grandparents extremely happy, like out of the line happy. Kayuri then goes to her room where she found an album. Inside the album, there was an old family photo which wasn't hers, and there was a little girl in the photo with her face scratched off. After this, Kayuri checked the room from her dreams, but that was locked, and then she goes to help her grandmom with dinner. Now there's a Japanese dish named miso, and for some reason, Kayuri's grandmom's miso was different. Kayuri loves that thing a lot, and that day, grandmom promised her to teach the recipe before she leaves this time. According to the grandmother, this miso is one of the reasons they stay happy. Now during dinner, they were talking the usual stuff when suddenly grandmom and granddad started oinking like pigs. At the same time, there was some rattling noise in the locked room, and for a moment, Kayuri found all that funny. But when the grandparents didn't stop, it became creepy and disturbing. They stopped when the noise stopped coming from above, and then pretended like nothing happened. The parents then talked about the pig they were eating and how it was its life purpose to become meat for their family. Kayuri found all that strange, and then after dinner, she found her grandpa in the hallway with his mouth wide open. He was staring into space for no reason, and he didn't stop until Kayuri called out to him. This all finally made us believe that there was something wrong not in the house but with the grandparents. During sleep hours, the grandparents wished Kayuri a good night, but with faces that were vacated of any emotion. The next day, Kayuri helped a guy who was bullied moments ago. Let's call him Alex. So she helped Alex when a guy named Asaka arrived, and he knew Alex. Surprisingly, Asaka knew Kayuri too, because the two used to be classmates. Asaka helped Alex with his bike and even offered him and Kayuri a ride back home. Kayuri and Asaka catch up on their way, and when Kayuri asked Asaka how he was, he just said under his breath, "Save me." But when Kayuri followed on that statement, he just stalled her. They dropped Alex at his place and then they spent the entire day together, creating new memories. Asaka then dropped Kayuri at her house and then she met with her grandpa, who was working on some bonsai plant, and he immediately told Kayuri to never hang out with that guy again. It was strange, but Kayuri didn't argue. She went inside and saw her grandmother, who was standing in the hallway in a really creepy way. When she saw Kayuri, she ran inside the room, and the movie was now taking a disturbing turn. At night, after dinner, the grandparents thanked Kayuri for this visit, but their way of saying thank you was weird. They grabbed her hands and they started rubbing them on their faces. Kayuri felt strange, so she snatched her hands away, but then the old folks started looking up at the ceiling. It all made Kayuri anxious and she went to bed, but late at night, she thought of looking inside that locked room, and that was why she went and stole the room keys discreetly. She then tried unlocking the door, but before she could do that, grandmother came there. She was standing in the shadows, staring at Kayuri in a creepy way, and when Kayuri called her, suddenly, grandmother ran into the door and she started banging herself in the door again and again. She didn't stop, and that made Kayuri run away in fear. The next day, the grandparents acted like nothing happened, but things took an even more disturbing turn when they all were having breakfast and Kayuri heard someone in the hallway outside. Soon after, an old man crawled into Kayuri's vision, scaring Kayuri to her death. The man's eyes and mouth were sewed shut, and he was trying to escape from this house. It took a moment for the grandparents to notice that, but when they did, they just casually dragged him back into the locked room. This perplexed Kayuri in every way possible, and she followed the grandparents, trying to figure out what was it that they were doing. Kayuri screamed and asked them what it all was, and the grandparents told her to come and have a closer look. The man started groaning in pain, and the old folks told Kayuri that this man was the reason for their happiness. Grandmother then asked grandfather if they should tell Kayuri the truth, but the grandfather denied, and in fear, Kayuri ran away. However, this is where we kinda get what's happening in this movie. Maybe the more this man suffers, the more happiness the grandparents will get. But why? We'll soon find out. The sure thing is, the pain inflicted on that man was somehow the beacon of their happiness. Now Kayuri ran as fast as she could, and soon she crossed paths with Asaka and his father. Let's just call him Ben. Ben invites Kayuri to their house and Kayuri goes with them. They gave Kayuri to eat a fruit, but then Ben starts showing Kayuri some of his paintings, and they were strange. Ben was happy in a strange way, and Asaka was trying to calm his dad down. Something was wrong in Asaka's home as well, and Kayuri figured that out. Afterwards, she told everything to Asaka in private, and the two decided to save that locked up man. They went back to Kayuri's home, but on their way, Asaka told her that there's something wrong happening in this village. People are happy, but not the usual happy. There was something strange in their happiness. Afterwards, Kayuri and Asaka sneaked inside her house, and then Kayuri goes to steal the keys to that room. On her way, she saw Grandma and Grandpa going into the bathroom where Grandma threw up. And this was actually morning sickness. Somehow, grandmother was pregnant, which was impossible for people her age. Kayuri then stole the keys, but then the old couple came back, and Kayuri hid under the table. Their grandpa told grandma to visit a hospital, but grandmother denied, and she did a really weird thing. She started sucking him off. No, not that. She started sucking his finger off in a similar way to that. She even saw Kayuri under the table, but she just smiled at her. After sucking him off, the grandparents went to a different room, and Kairi instantly goes back to Osaka, avoiding the grandparents who were then wandering around like evil beings. They then unlocked that room and found that man. Poor guy was hella injured, and there was a pipe fixed to his stomach from where his body was receiving nutrients. To save the man, Kairi first cut the stitches off his eyes and mouth. The man woke up and started groaning in pain, but the two assured him that he's safe. They then helped him get up and escorted him out of the room. But Kairi saw some grandmother's miso in that room, and it was actually harvested from the man's body. Down the stairs, the grandparents were waiting for him already, but they didn't stop him. They told Asaka to mind his own business because Kairi still doesn't know anything, and then they told Kairi to trust the process of happiness. However, Kairi and Asaka didn't listen to him one bit, and they ran out with that man. Now the man was trapped in the darkness for years, and that was why when he saw sunlight, he went kinda crazy. He was happy though, and he didn't need others to help him. He started walking, and Kairi and Asaka followed him, thinking they might reach his home. In the next scene, the man was walking in the middle of a road, followed by Kairi and Asaka, who were followed by their grandparents. On the other side of the road, we see Kairi's mom Miyoko, dad Kensuke, and brother Sota, and the family was coming towards them in a car. They passed by the injured man, which shocked them, but then the man stopped and smiled at Kairi. This was true happiness there. The man was truly happy to be free, and Kairi found comfort in that, until suddenly, a truck came out of nowhere and sent the man flying meters away. The man then died in a matter of seconds, and Kairi and Asaka cried in guilt. Now everyone gathered around the dead body, but other than those two, everyone acted casual, even Kairi's parents. The grandparents told the parents that Kairi doesn't know the truth yet, and then Miyoko held her daughter tightly as her father and grandfather kicked the man's body away and threw him into a field. Kairi cried and begged her father to not do it, but he still did, and then he burned the body in front of her. Others then told Kairi that the world has changed a long time ago and our people's happiness is limited, and that was why people have started to feed on other people's happiness. Asaka interfered and told others that this is wrong, but he was hushed down. Now actually what we're seeing in this movie is an apocalyptic situation in which people are turning happy, but this happiness is evil. The people who have turned happy are now stealing other people's happiness to keep theirs alive. Now we're gonna find out more about this strange happiness further in this movie. But for now, you just need to know that people who are happy in this movie are just under some kind of influence, an evil influence. Now at night during dinner, Kairi told her dad and mom how awfully weird and strange everything is. She wanted them to come with her and go back home, but no one listened to a word she said. Even our little brother was supporting this delusion. The entire family eats dinner in peace, and Kairi realized that no one is gonna help her in this situation. So she went and packed her stuff. She then screamed at her family and told them that humanity is not that cruel. But the family continues to discuss about their little ceremony that was due in a few days. After this, Miyoko told her daughter that there's no use of her escaping because the entire world is like this now. She told her that she kept Kairi in a happy environment since she was little so that she can have a good life, but now it was time for her to accept reality. However, Kairi didn't want to believe any of that, so she ran away. Next day, Kairi strolled around the village and observed the happy villagers, and she just couldn't believe that they were evil because everyone was acting normal. After a while, a car stopped near Kairi, and inside were two of her old classmates. They saw Kairi and asked her what she's going to do now. Apparently, the two have heard something about Kairi and her future in this village, but they soon figured out that Kairi doesn't know what's gonna happen to her, and that was why they laughed the topic off and drove away. Kairi had no clue what was happening around her, and in the end, she found herself standing near the ashes of that burnt man. There, an old woman came and talked to her, and she told her pretty creepy stuff. First, she asked Karryshh to not pick someone from her family as a sacrifice because there are only old people in her family. Karryshh didn't get why she was asking for such things, and then the woman told Karryshh that before her, something like this happened to Karrysh's father's sister. She then told Karryshh that in this world, people like Karryshh should be more understanding and they should not resist the process of happiness. Karryshh was puzzled, so she ran back home, and there she picked up that photo of that old family she found in the album. And actually, the girl in the photo is her aunt, her father's sister. Karryshh then went and asked her dad about her sister. Kensuke told her that her aunt was exactly like her. She refused to accept happiness, and one day she ran away. Some say she's dead, but some say she's still alive and living in the mountains. In the same sense, Karryshh was rare because she also didn't want to accept these societal norms. In a way, the normal people in this movie were considered abnormal. Hearing that, Karryshh ran, but she found her grandma at the exit and her ears were bleeding because something was wrong with her family. Karryshh then wasted her entire day in the hope that she will find her aunt. She asked everyone about her, but most of the people scolded her. In the end, she reached the mountains, and one guy guided her towards a small house where lives a woman who doesn't speak to anyone. Karryshh went and visited that woman, and it turned out that she was indeed her aunt, who had cut ties with everyone. Aunt took Karryshh inside her house, and Karryshh told her the entire story of everything. Afterwards, Aunt told her to not worry, because whatever is happening, it's all an hallucination. She told her that your grandparents will try to make you sacrifice someone on your own will, so you can become happy too, just like him. Now, no one knows why that happiness is different from other happiness, but to escape the evil happiness, you just need to ignore everything and never ever sacrifice someone on your own will. Auntie further told Karryshh about virtual reality and how everything in this world is just a simulation, and when someone dies, they just take the VR headset off. After this weird conversation, she took Karryshh outside and told her to split the wood. She told her to swing the axe as hard as she could, and Karryshh obliged. She swung the axe, but then slowly. Aunt brought her head below it, and Karryshh split her skull in half. Auntie laughed, even in that immense pain, meaning she was too under the influence of that evil happiness. Karryshh couldn't believe, but she just did, and she ran to save herself. She went inside the house and found a skull hung from the strings, and it was the skeleton of the person Auntie sacrificed willingly. Karryshh ran back into the woods, and she ran and ran and ran until she sat by a tree and cried because she just unalived her aunt. Now the things were a bit more clear. There was an evil happiness that spread in the world like a virus, and if someone does this sacrifice, they can be happy. However, to keep that happiness alive, one must torture someone innocent constantly, and it was the reason that old man was trapped in grandparents' house for so long. Now Karryshh fell asleep by the tree, and she had a strange dream. She saw herself sitting between her family members when that abducted man came into the room and started dancing. Her other family members gave the dancing a beat in a really strange and creepy way, which was most likely the effect of evil happiness. And now that evil happiness wants to target Karryshh. The next day, Karryshh came out of the woods and met Asaka, who was waiting for her. Asaka offered her a ride home, but she decided to ignore him and go home on foot. Karryshh came home and sat between her parents, but she didn't see Sota around because he was struggling in the room next to theirs. His eyes were bleeding, and he was saying one thing over and over again, that it is so red, so red, so red. Miyoko revealed that it's Sota's punishment for playing games all day, and at the same time, Karryshh saw that her grandmother is now pregnant with a 9-month-old child inside her, which was impossible. Whatever was inside grandmother was definitely not human. Everything was taken a worse turn and Karryshh still couldn't believe that the world has turned upside down. That was why she picked up a pair of scissors and ran outside. She went and crossed paths with those bullies and she stabbed one of the bully in the chest. However, the bullies laughed and played with the blood like nothing happened, and seeing that, Karryshh believed on this new reality. Suddenly, the wound healed and the blood disappeared and the bullies forgot everything that just happened. They went their way and then came that boy Karryshh helped earlier, Alex. Alex was still humane and then the two have a conversation. Alex was familiar with everything that was happening and in the end he told Karryshh that if she became happy then everything would be normal for her. Nothing will change that much and it might be the reason more and more people are choosing to be happy. Karryshh went back home and saw that her family has invited another old man so that they can trap him too. However, Karryshh wouldn't let that happen. She started screaming at the man and told him to leave if he cares for his life. Her parents tried to stop her, but Karryshh successfully made the man leave. Meanwhile, Karrysh's brother was almost dead after his punishment. Same thing was happening to Karrysh's mother now, and something weird was happening to every family member. Miyoko told her that it was time, and Kensuke shouted at her about the sacrifice she needed to do, or else everyone in their family will die. Grandmother told Karryshh that she needs to sacrifice someone before the baby arrives, or otherwise she can sew up her eyes and mouth, cause if she didn't, then it will be the end of their bloodline. Karryshh had no clue about anything but she didn't want to see her family die, so in fury and guilt, she went and started sewing her eyes shut, which made everyone happy. However, Karryshh couldn't complete it. She was in pain, so she stopped and it made everyone angry. Karryshh told him that she will not do anything else, and then everyone crawled towards her in fury and pain. She ran to save her life and she didn't know where she should go, so she ended up at Asaka's place, but there she saw something shocking. Asaka had sacrificed his father willingly and now he would be happy. Karryshh told Asaka that all this is just an illusion cause real happiness comes from inside and not killing people. She told him to run with her, but in the end something happened and Karryshh fell. She started shivering, and on the other hand, grandmother's water broke. The baby was arriving and everyone in Karrysh's family would die without the sacrifice. Karryshh began dying when Asaka held her hands and he started to make her strangle him cause he knew what the evil happiness wants. This scene was kinda emotional and Asaka told Karryshh that it was going to be okay. And meanwhile, Karrysh's family did a really weird ritual for the baby's arrival. In the end, Karryshh accepted her fate and she willingly strangled Asaka to his death. Blood fell out of her eyes, which Asaka wiped before dying, and Karryshh became a victim of happiness. After the baby's birth, Karrysh's family chanted prayers and Karryshh became depressed before happiness takes over her. She then brought Asaka's body home and it made her family proud and happy. They then sewed up Asaka's eyes and face and Karryshh then felt happy. The scene goes a few days later where Karryshh has returned back to Tokyo. She was on a date with a guy and they met with that same old woman from the beginning again. However, this time Karryshh didn't help her. She and he strolled down the alleys where we noticed that many people were living in fear of becoming happy now, and Karryshh gave them a creepy smile. After this, her date asked her if she was happy and she replied, "Yes, I'm happier than ever." And this is where the movie ends. So this was the recap video on the movie. Best regards to all and I hope you have liked it. If you have, then please subscribe the channel and like this video. I really need your support to grow further. If you want to watch this movie, there's a link to my Telegram channel where I share movie links every now and then, so go subscribe there. I'm mostly active on Insta, so you can follow me there as well. And look into my other channel where we discuss about the mysteries of the world. All the links are in the description box. For now, I'll see you all in the next one. Till then, stay awake. because they always see you